Well, as you travel across this country of ours, you find yourself on many a strange and varied road. And if you ever find yourself traveling some back roads at night, no doubt you've had an eerie feeling or you've seen something maybe that didn't seem quite right. You know, it's natural when you're kind of out there and you're away from civilization to kind of feel like you don't belong sometimes, that you're unwanted and that the place you're at is dangerous, even if it's not.
Danger, danger.
And when you have as many roads crisscrossing as America does, and you have as much tragedy as America does, you're bound to sooner or later have one of those locations become haunted. And when I started looking up, this is
You could write volumes on this.
This could be a multi-part episode. We could do more of these in the future, but we're going to talk about some of America's haunted roads.
From a child born into this world, we are taught what to believe. Closed-minded we become, fearful to be deceived. Still we desire to know what lies beyond that locked door. The art of the storyteller, conjuring tales of legend and lore. History hidden, lost knowledge, things forgotten and the unknown. These are the things that direct us and will set the tone. Welcome, friends, to another episode of Nightmares on the Lost Highway.
Well, one of the first ones that definitely lured me in, and I will say just by the name alone, is up in New Jersey. It's actually called Shades of Death Road. Now, if you do what we do, and you're researching and you come across a name like Shades of Death Road, that's got to have some history. That's what I thought. So I dove into this one. It's real, folks. This is part of Weird New Jersey's Online is where I first came across this story, and I will share some of their verbiage. Out of all the grim monikers encountered out on the roads less traveled throughout New Jersey, perhaps none is more foreboding than the infamous Shades of Death Road. Like many places steeped in local lore, reality and legend have become intertwined over the years, obscuring exactly what can be considered facts regarding this byway. Now, doing all the research for this, many legends are associated with the Shades of Death Road, which winds alongside the Jenny Jump Forest State Park in, I may butcher this, I'm sorry, but Alamuchee in Warren County. Now, one of the the more famous street names, New Jersey's roadside culture, obviously by the namesake, this road runs along this old haunted lake bed, which occasionally has pillars, they say, of mist and fog rising up from the top of the water, towering over. But not just like it's coming up, it holds its shape of columns. So as you look out on the lake, imagine the water surface as a floor and you're looking into like a Roman Colosseum kind of effect.
Weird.
Very weird. Said the columns will come up, some of them, they'll be 12, 15 foot or more. And then kind of as they get to the top, it's almost like there's a clear funnel there and they just kind of overflow and then the fog begins to come over the road and everything. So it's kind of a delayed reaction. That is one of the things that a lot of people up in the area report, which is kind of hard to explain. I'm not real sure what's going on there. I followed a couple people's written statements that they had put out, and I wanted to share a few of those with you as well. There is a Pete Valerie. He states, I don't know what caused it. He goes, I've seen it when I was fishing. So he was actually out on a boat when this occurred. He actually said that he went through one of the columns of fog. So that was kind of an interesting touch. He said you could definitely feel a cold sensation, as some people do paranormal research, a ghost-like drop in temperature. He thought of at least 5 to 10 degrees. But he goes, I think it may go back to the legend of the early settlers killing Indians and throwing them into this lake. Now, this phenomenon also, many of them call the Great Meadows Fog. Now, some people claim to see dead walking along the road in the mist once that it overflows. So in essence, this kind of lends to the story that the lake is belching up possibly these spirits, these apparitions, whether they be Indian or whatever, coming from the depths of the lake. And then finally they overflow onto the roads and into the forest, which helps give Shades of Death Road its name. This road runs by what is called Dark Moon Bar. It's a must stop if you follow any weird New Jersey kind of trips. It's just a thing of its own. We'll leave it at that. The road was also the site of many deaths, once considered to be a curse that fell upon the area. A local, Chrissy Waters, an employee at the general store in Johnsonburg, said that her mother had told her it was some type of a plague caused by the water, as if the water was resulting its vengeance back on the people. Now, another thing that one local teenager talked about was, he said earlier in his life and career, they bragged upon stealing the sign, the street sign, if you will, which I would have to say that would be kind of cool to hang up somewhere in your man cave, that the locals started greasing the pole so that people would get out when they tried to get a hold of it, and they just get the grease and stuff.
So is that
all
the
over.
actual name of the road?
That is
not
the
a nickname?
actual name of the road.
Because a lot of the ones I found, they were nicknames.
Yep.
So
Shades of Death Road, street signs.
That's like the old Route 666, right?
And I've been on that too. Yes. Now, out of all the grim monikers encountered out on the roads less traveled, obviously this is a foreboding one, the infamous one. And everybody argues what caused it. Why is this little stretch that's only about 1.5 miles long, why is it so conjectured with all of this? Now, another legend is that a murder is at the roots of Shades of Death name. One tale relating to a murder said that the original inhabitants of the area, going way back in history, around this area were an unruly band of squatters. Often men from this vile gang would get into fights over women, and the squabbles would result into the death of one of the participants. These people would also be known to come and raid local citizens' cabins and such, steal their food, kind of like what we have in Branson is the bald knobbers, kind of deal, vigilante justice in the way they saw. As the reputation of these murderous bandits grew, the area they inhabited, they believe, was then given the name Shades of Death. And when the civilized world encroached on and kind of disbanded this ragtag group of bandits, the last remnant of their control over the meadow was restricted to one road that retained the name which they made famous, which is the road we're talking about tonight. Second legend, another murder theory, says the road was originally known as simply the Shades because of the low-hanging trees that formed a canopy over the length of the road. Now, legends say that over time, many murders did occur there, many unsolved murders, causing local residents to add the sinister of death twist to the former pleasant Shades name. It's said that some of these victims' bodies were often strung up on trees along the road's edge, or even worse, hung for the world to see dangling from tree branches, allowing birds of the air to feed upon the corpses until their bones fell to the ground, cursing the area. Yet another explanation of how Shades acquired its name would have less to do with murder and more with death by natural causes. Shades of Death traverses an area long known as the Great Meadows, which upon its original settlement was a vast area of marshy swampland. Now, the story goes in about 1850, an outbreak of malaria causing insects was discovered near a cliff facing the Shades. As citizens around the Shades become to expect yearly outbreaks of this terrible disease, they begin to anticipate the annual plague of death of friends and family members, which would fall to their death from this. Now, like any community, their landmarks in particular, this one road came to reflect the attitude that they had regarding these epidemics that continued to plague them for decades or more. In conjunction with that legend goes a similar account. With the plagues that started killing people in town, It could force them to lay the dead bodies on the road so that some sort of doctor could hopefully come along and pick them up, treat them, or if they didn't make it, to load the bodies up. They had no way to properly dispose of the bodies. However, with the marsh and swamplands, it is said that many of the bodies were dumped in what is now known as Ghost Lake, and that was actually recorded in their history books as one of the mass graves, the dumping grounds, if you will, of all these people who had these malaria outbreaks. The diseased corpses, of course, by dumping them into the water, gave the lake the name Ghost Lake, but worse yet, it even spread the plague even more into underground wells and water systems. A local, Amanda H., writes that someone told my boyfriend about how he was driving down the road and he looked in his rearview mirror and he could see a man on a horse that followed him. If he turned around to actually look out the car, there was nothing there. But when he got back in the car and started driving, he looked in the mirror. There it was, and it had come to a stop up against the back of his trunk. Alyssa B. tells an unusual story of a Native American shapeshifter that still guards the forest. Now, she says, as a teen, my friends and I drove up to the Shades of Death Road. It was quite a popular hangout, as I'm sure, for the teenage crowd. The legend was that you had to drive very slow down the road, lest the Indian would get you. Now, the Indian was a guardian of the area. You might see a deer in front of you while you were traveling on the Shades, but it was no ordinary deer. It was this Indian wearing a deer skin. And it is said if he charged your car and you didn't stop before he reached it, he would pass through your vehicle and you would then go into a horrible car accident before you could get off the road. Traveling the Shades of Death Road today is still a mysterious, foreboding place. Whatever the real origins of the name, something about that tract of land has caused its earliest settlers to murmur the name in which we even still talk about today. They have tried to rename the road. However, they are fully embracing it, the state of New Jersey and the county, as some of our other towns we've featured with Mothman and different paranormal activities are embracing it. So while for a period of a few years some of the signs did disappear, you can still find Shades of Death Road up in New Jersey.
Wow. Well, the first one I wanted to talk about was Suskin Road, Pittston Township in Pennsylvania. This is a state route that goes on for miles and then eventually turns into Thornhurst Road and Bear Lake Road. Now, there's all sorts of phenomenon associated with this particular stretch of road. Some folks see these non-moving bright lights in the street. Others claim to see a young woman dressed in a white dress. Now, most events happen by the Black Bridge. Was an old railroad bridge that was demolished in the 1980s. Now, according to legends, either a young bride hung herself nearby after being married, or a girl was killed after her prom on the road. And you'll often see this spectral woman in white, which is kind of a common,
I was going to say,
ghost haunting
I've heard
type
several
thing.
stories of women in white on bridges and roads. And
now the legends say that if you honk your car horn 3 times at night in the area of the old torn down 1-lane Susquehanna Railroad Bridge, a place where car radios are known to go eerily silent as you approach, and if you're not sure you're in the right place, make sure your radio's on as you drive. Eventually it'll shut itself off or go silent. It doesn't turn off, it just, you stop getting a signal, I guess. But anyway, if you stop and you honk your horn 3 times, you can hear her screams and possibly even catch a glimpse of the Susquehanna Screamer, which is a name that's well associated with this particular road. Now, she'll either appear in the road in front of you or in your rearview mirror. But this isn't the only Susquehanna Screamer. Or maybe this isn't the Susquehanna Screamer, but there is in fact another one. Another legend says there's a strange breed of creature that lives in the woods along this road that sounds like a woman screaming when it howls. It's said to have a long pig-like snout and a hunched back. Some people say maybe it kind of looks like a hyena in a way. These stories began in the later years of the 1800s when a fire tower watchman spotted a fire in the Susquehanna area. Now, firemen were dispatched to the scene and they were battling the blaze when they heard a terrible scream from the woods. Later, that same watchman would hear screams coming from that charred area, very similar to what the firemen had heard. and he claimed to see a large creature with a pig-like snout coming towards him. Sometimes it walked on 2 legs, sometimes on 4. As it approached, of course, the screams got louder, and the watchman hid from the creature until it was gone. In the 1970s, a hunter reported seeing a similar creature in the woods, describing the pig-like snout and adding that the creature had webbed feet with long claws. Said it was about 6 feet tall and gray in color, and also alternated between walking on 2 and 4 legs. Now, later on, in 1976 and 1984, there were reports of a Bigfoot-like creature, not only in the Susquehanna area, but also nearby Harveyville. And in 1999, someone claimed to see a large web-footed lizard-like creature in the woods.
This thing checks all the boxes.
Yeah. Another strange tale, of course, from the Susquehanna Road regards the 18 streetlights that line the road as you drive down at night, and the 11 that are always shot out. But drivers make a note. It's a different 11 every night.
Interesting. Well, I've got another one here I'll share. It's Kelly Road in Ohioville, Pennsylvania. Now, here's one for you, ripped out of the pages of history. Now, I will tell you it goes back to a very, very early story, and I will be the first to say there's not a lot of substantial proof for this haunted road. However, it is one that's been kept alive by legends and lore and storytellers like ourselves for centuries. Even with speculation and trying to connect the exact date or people's names involved, I think you will agree if you'll give it a listen. It's a chilling tale worth sharing. Locals of Ohioville, Pennsylvania can agree on one thing. The little road known as Kelly Road, or also sometimes called Mystery Mile, might be a short trip in distance, but one that will remain on your mind for years to come. Many have reported throughout the past century, especially on a still fall night about dusk, when you can roll your windows of your car down and enjoy a nice cool cruise through the forest. You might be surprised by what you hear. All too often, it's the wails and cry of what sounds like a man crying. But if he is, it's as if he is choking or dying with his last breaths. Yet his screams echo through the woods and the terrain, chilling all that hear him all the way to the bone. Others report the sounds of horses, sometimes just neighing and maybe acting spooked. You might hear the hooves picking up the pace from behind you, as if they are racing for their own life to try to pass your car. Then there are the sounds of cracking wood and a spinning sound, possibly that of a wagon wheel. Very seldom can anything ever be seen, most usually just dark, ominous feelings of something watching you from the darkness, something waiting for you to let your guard down. A few, however, have come forward saying that they have seen an overturned carriage, which I think kind of goes back to some of the historical legitimacy of this, with one dead horse still attached to the carriage and another racing away for his life. Now, there in the shadows of dusk, when the light kind of plays tricks on you through the leaves of the trees, some will see a woman in a white dress, ripped and bloody, but she's lying beneath that carriage. And there's another of a well-dressed man who seems to frantically be the one crying and calling out for help, not for his own injuries, which look severe enough, but for those of his wife, whom is pinned beneath the carriage, and he is unable to reach her. The man's screams are said to be ear-piercing until finally breaking down into a frantic mixture of sobbing and wailing prayers for his beloved, which he is desperately trying to reach his hand out to touch. As you approach, a misty fog seems to drift in like an immersing wave of murky waters that just wipes them away from the sight and from your eye. Those brave enough to have left the safety of their cars to run up to the overturned carriage, if you are lucky or unlucky enough to see it, will now find in the headlights of your car astonishment and disbelief. They then feel the presence as the carriage vanishes that so many have described, seeing even glowing eyes and hear what sounds like something springing through the leaves of the forest, almost snorting and laughing. It, whatever that is, must have been what frightened the horses and overturned the carriage. And now it seems it's refocused on you because you left the safety of your car. The feeling of dread and weight seemed to almost paralyze you, or you struggle to pick up your feet and slowly, frantically try to make it back to your car door as if you're traveling in quicksand. You hear it from behind you, almost playfully mocking your slow strifes, to the point you feel its breath on the back of your neck. You don't dare spend a second to turn and look. Finally, you're able to break away from its lure, lunge into the car, and close and lock the door for safety. In your headlights, the misty fog now circles and moves as if something is beneath it. A few nudges, possibly to your car, makes it rock a bit to and fro. You lay onto the horn, doing the only thing that you can think of to do as you try to frantically start the car, and poof, the fog and whatever it is that's been following you seems to vanish. You restart your car and continue the short path down the Mystery Mile. Congratulations, you've lived to tell the story and live another day. Now, a little bit of history. The Kelly Road, often known as the Mystery Mile, is located, as I said, in Ohioville, Pennsylvania. Legends is that a young couple died on the road when their carriage flipped over for no reason. The woman's neck snapped, while the husband was crushed beneath the carriage. Here's the twist. The husband did not die immediately. He actually lingered on for several hours before anyone found him. Now there he lay, you can imagine, suffering in slow and agonizing death as he watched his beloved wife struggle and die just inches away from his touch. His cry for help went unanswered, and it is said that even to this night on a small stretch of road you can hear the noise of a carriage flipping and a man's cry for help. The only problem is when you reach the spot, more than likely, you'll find nothing. This story's got a lot going for it, I thought. The ghost of a helpless, honorable man forced to watch his wife die. Or was it something more sinister? Maybe a monster or a beast that playfully picks out travelers for over a century just to watch them die? Or is it possibly a skinwalker or a dogman style cryptid that once called this their stalking grounds? We may never know the truth on what is actually on Kelly Road, but it is for sure a mystery mile.
There's a stretch of road in Michigan known as Knock Knock Road, and it gets its name due to the fact that as you drive down this road at night, you will begin to hear a strange knocking sound coming from somewhere in your car. Now, a lot of people hear a knocking sound in your car, and you think that's bad enough, and a little bit of panic in your your body there as you wonder what's wrong and how much it's going to cost to fix. But this strange knocking is said to be an indicator that the soul who lost their life on this road still lingers there and wants you to know that they're there. The most common story of Knock Knock Road's origin was documented in 2006 in the book Weird Michigan, and is said to take place on Detroit's Strasburg Road, where a little girl on a bicycle accidentally veered into busy traffic and was hit and killed by a careless driver. And her spirit has never left the scene of the accident, knocking on passing cars looking for the driver who killed her. However, this isn't the only story of Knock Knock Road's origin. Another story tells of a time a group of kids were driving recklessly, speeding down the road at, I think, 76 miles an hour is what was said, when they hit a pole head on, and they got trapped in the car after the crash and were unable to escape as the vehicle caught fire and burned, killing them all as they pounded on the windows trying to escape. And that now their restless spirits remain and will knock on the windows of cars, still attempting to escape their fiery fate. And sometimes drivers can even hear their screams for help. They say that if you really want to have the experience, you have to drive at 76 miles an hour, and when you're in the right vicinity, then you will experience this. I didn't want to say that originally. I don't want anybody to do that.
Yeah.
But that's how they say you can experience that.
Makes sense.
But this might not even be the right Knock Knock Road. There's another story that points to a road on the island of Grosse Isle, and this road attributes its origin of its haunting to a couple. Now, maybe this couple was a couple of teenagers. Maybe this was a father driving home the babysitter who wanted to participate in a little infidelity. But they've parked at the local lover's lane, and after he attempts to put the moves on the girl, who makes it very clear she's not interested in what he has to offer, he reaches over, opens her door, shoves her out, slams the door behind her, and speeds off into the night, leaving her behind, or so he thinks. Now, depending on the version of the story, either her dress or her hair have gotten caught in the door when he slams it.
Oh.
And as he speeds off, he drags her beside the car for miles,
Oh.
which she does not survive. And this is why you hear the knocking on your car as you drive down this road. She's trying to get the attention of that long ago spurned lover to let him know that she's caught in the door.
Whoa. What a way to go.
Now, again, we want to keep it close to home. I've got another story of Route 66 in Villa Ridge, Missouri. Now, this isn't so much a haunted stretch of road, but a section of road where there is some haunting activity. I may have deviated a little bit from the assignment here. But this is the story of a long abandoned truck stop that's right here, this particular stretch of road, that continues to attract ghost hunters from all over the United States. According to an article by Commercial Truck Trader, visiting mediums have suggested the truck stop is a portal to the other side of eternity, where souls re-enter our world and attach their spirits to truckers whom they might possess in order to drive themselves home. Now, I did a little bit
So
of
that is like the tale of the most unwanted hitchhiker that you could possibly have.
Now, I did a little bit of Eric here, and I did get into the history just a touch, not much.
I'm so
The
proud.
original Diamonds restaurant was built on the site in 1927, was completely lost to a fire in 1948. The existing brick structure that's there now was built in 1950 and operated until 1967, when the location was bypassed by I-44 coming in. Everybody knows,
Yep.
Route 66 got surpassed by I-44. Eventually, the building would reopen as the Tri-County Truck Stop, and the truck stop started to experience paranormal activity in 1970. Employees and customers alike started telling stories, claiming to have been touched by something they couldn't see, or hearing ghostly voices and growls. Over the next 20 years, people would see objects move of their own accord, lights and appliances that would turn themselves on and off. Others claimed to have seen coffee pots thrown by unseen hands. And there were a few distinct spirits that would make themselves known, such as the misty man in the plaid shirt and tan pants that was often seen in the men's room, or the spirits of a man savagely attacking a spectral woman covered in blood. Children would routinely tell of seeing the bloody monster in the second floor stairway. Employees had so many strange encounters that many refused to enter the basement alone when they worked there.
So this thing's got a basement and a second floor. It's a big sized
Yep.
building. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too far from here.
That sounds pretty cool. Well, I've got a story called Hales Bar Dam. And a little bit to Bill's point, I'm branching out here a little bit too. But just before you reach Chattanooga, you're going to come across on the Tennessee River. The big old river in Nashville is the Cumberland, by the way. So if you were looking for a place that's almost certain to be haunted, which, let's face it, we are right here, you would be kicking yourself if you didn't stop at Old Hales Bar Dam. Now, once upon a time, navigating the river in these parts could be very deadly. Native Cherokee tribes used to call it, get ready for this, the Suck.
The Suck.
The Suck. Because they feared that if they got too close,
It would suck.
it would suck their souls
Oh, okay.
down,
Well, it does suck.
with the ancestors being drugged down below. So yeah, not too far. That dam sucks. Of course, it's before the dam, but those waters suck. Now, these waters were sacred amongst the Native American Indian tribes. And after, we'll say, the illegal treaty of 1775 gave the land around to the white man, Chief Dragging Canoe, which was his given name, Chief Dragging Canoe, placed a curse that is dark and equally bloody, that land would be unproductive and uninhabitable because of the white men taking it from them. To solve the curse of the rough, dangerous waters of the river, the Hale Bar Dam was constructed back in 1913. Now, if anyone failed to take that curse seriously, it soon proved how dark and bloody it would become. Hundreds died during the construction of the dam as it continued to collapse several times while being built. Workers were killed, and women and children were killed in the crude tunnel below that they used to walk to school. Long Cemetery nearby was flooded, bringing remains of corpses to the surface only to float away in the mighty river. The underground tunnel cave for these kids and women to walk to school. I'm assuming They probably took down a bridge or something, so they must have made this as part of the base of the dam.
I assumed it was part of the dam.
Yeah. But that one kind of threw me off for a little bit. In 1967, this still leaky dam, which they said never really performed properly, was replaced with what was called the Nickajack Dam, which in turn flooded the entire Cherokee village of Nickajack, which it actually takes its name, and a cave that was its namesake. Now, that was believed to have released an ancient evil spirit that now has free reign of the Tennessee River. It's no wonder this place is known as one of Tennessee's most haunted locations. Up to this point, it is believed that this evil entity, this spirit, was foreclosed down into the cave, kept into the cave until the floodwaters reached it. And then it was like, okay, all bets off now. We're pulling out all the punches. We're letting out the big guy. We're doing everything. Now, today, locals still report paranormal activity around Hales Bar Dam, as well as the roads leading up around it and the Tennessee River in general. Some report seeing Native American ghost dancers literally appearing on the surface of the wavy water. The sounds of faint turtle rattles adorned with beads and bells can still be heard above the turbulent water. Their songs can carry heavy with the river's breeze, especially at night for many fishermen. Others, even by boat out in the water, often tell of a faint glowing lights that appear like that of a coal-burning lantern deep beneath them in the murky waters. Drivers in and around the area often relay their own haunting stories, everything from strange lights in the sky to disrupted radio signals to apparitions moving alongside of the road as if being drenched in water, almost clawing and grabbing at the vehicles, often to the point of breaking mirrors off of cars as they were speeding to get away.
My last one here is by far my favorite that I found as I was putting the final touches on this. I actually didn't have this one originally, and as I was putting the finishing touches on the other ones last night, I found this one, and it
went to the top of the list.
Sucked in. This one gave me chills as I was reading through some of the stories. This is Demon's Road in Huntsville, Texas. This road runs adjacent to the Erie Martha Chapel Cemetery, which was established in the 1800s. Now, officially named Bowden Road, the area is steeped in mysterious and haunting lore. Bowden Road is so well known for strange phenomenon that even the locals say they won't drive down it after dark unless they absolutely have to. One being quoted as saying, quote, "If I need something, no matter what, unless it's life or death, I steer clear of that sucker once the sun goes down. That place ain't no good. Not a place for any law-abiding Christian. The devil take that land." Some pretty heavy words.
Yeah.
Now, those few who live along the road say that going outside after dark is not recommended and that they don't do it unless they have to. Those who visit during the day claim that the silence is unsettling. You won't hear birds or crickets or even the leaves crunching under your feet. Reported encounters include phenomenon in the cemetery itself, which is just off the road, of course. And this place is notorious for ghost sightings, among other unexplained activities. Some have claimed to see a ghostly man wandering around the cemetery. Others claim to have had a ghostly hand grab their ankle as they walk by at night. One story that I found was that a guy had gone there. They were going there, a couple of thrill seekers looking for a spooky good time, and the guy's friend had fallen asleep in the passenger seat as they were driving. So he pulled into the cemetery and he went in by himself. And a hand grabbed him by the ankle and tripped him. He fell, and his hand wouldn't let go. Well, he heard someone coming through the cemetery, and he said, okay, my buddy's coming to help me. And he looks up and he sees this. It looks like his friend. And the guy helps him up, and the hand lets go of his ankle, and then he really looks at him, and this is not his friend. This is someone who looks just like his friend, but there is no life in those eyes. And he looks over at the car, and he can see his buddy still asleep in the car.
A lot of help he is.
Yeah. Travelers driving down the road report seeing spectral figures that appear and disappear in the woods along the road. Some will tell of a mysterious truck that roars up behind them at a high rate of speed before disappearing without a trace. Some see red eyes in the forest along the road that fill them with dread, while others tell of seeing a strange creature in the tree line as they drive by. When they try to get a better look, they see that the creature doesn't seem to have a face. And once it realizes it's been spotted, it charges from the forest after the cars as they drive by. This creature, luckily enough, doesn't seem to be able to leave the Demon's Road, although some have claimed to have found giant handprints on their vehicles once they get back to the safety of their house. Now, there is something they call the tap-along, and it is not stuck on the Demon's Road. If you have one of these, you won't know that you've picked up this phantom hitchhiker until up to 24 hours later when a strange activity begins to happen in your home. I don't know why they call it the tap-along, but
I was thinking you could hear tapping maybe or something.
I never really found an explanation for that, but apparently you can pick up ghostly hitchhikers as you drive down the Demon's Road.
Wonderful.
You might see strange red lights along the Demon's Road, usually one for each person in the vehicle. These lights are said to be mostly harmless, unless you look directly at them, at which point they will fly straight towards the car at an alarming speed. Those who've seen these lights also report temporary amnesia. So who can say what happens once these lights catch up to you? There's the apparition of a ghostly boy riding a tricycle that's been seen by hundreds of people. Some of those people claim that the boy has red eyes and that this apparition is a red-eyed demon looking for his next victim to possess. But that's not all. Drops in temperature, malfunctioning electronics, vehicle trouble, a mysterious woman in white walking alongside the roadside.
There's that woman in white again.
Ghostly children who can be seen playing in the woods. There have been tales of animal sacrifices. These sacrifices may be related to tales told by some drivers who say they've seen people wearing dark cloaks standing in circles in the woods. I mean, again, it's just this stretch of road.
What way are you going to be taken from this world?
Yeah, like what are you going to bring something home with you? Are you going to be snatched in the graveyard? Are you going to be a part of a sacrifice?
You make it through all that and you think you've made it, and then the tap along or whatever.
Then you've got a tap along that comes home with you.
You're like, hey, I made it home.
Well, I guess now that we've covered our last haunted road, it's time to get to headlines.
Well, 94.5 PST New Jersey Hit Radio stated on March of 2025 that Shades of Death Road, the story that I talked about, had made a believer out of a couple of them that had went out to actually do a news story, as well as, obviously, many locals. Since that time frame, or as officially as of March 2025 this year, it has earned the #1 most haunted highway of all of New Jersey, and making it to the top 5 of, I will say, many lists accumulated across the country of the most top 5 haunted highways across America. Like many other cities and small towns, like I had touched upon before, have reported about concerning the paranormal, have decided rather than to run from it and to try to bury it, let's full-blown throw it out there and possibly use it, I guess, as a tourist addition.
These places might as well embrace it because, I mean, it's not going to go away.
The ones that want to go find it are gonna be there to find it, and the ones that's not interested, you're not going to be catering to them. But New Jersey's most haunted highway are signs that are being added along to the Shades of Death Road. And you got to wonder, what do you think the ghosts think of that? Well, to them, I'd say it's just proof. Never give up on your dreams, ghost. It might have taken you a century to get here, but, apparently you've finally done it. You've made the list. So kudos and job well done to either ghosties or shapeshifters or whatever goes bump in the night along the road.
From KTTN.com, October 25th, 2024, by Randall Mann. Chilling tales haunt visitors at Missouri's mysterious Zombie Road. Zombie Road, also known as Rock Hollow Trail in Wildwood, Missouri, is said to be among the most infamous haunted sites in the Midwest. Originally established as Lawler Ford Road in the 1860s, over time, this modest road became the heart of spine-chilling tales, including shadows that move independently, unexplained whispers, and a pervasive sense of dread. Now, today, Zombie Road's winding path is shrouded in mystery and regarded as one of Missouri's most haunted locations. where apparitions reportedly wander and strange noises fill the air. The road's history is marred by numerous tragedies, mainly associated with industrial workers in the nearby railroad and quarry. These workers often labored under perilous conditions and faced a high risk of fatal accidents. Local lore suggests that some of their spirits have never left. Visitors have described the sensation of being followed by unseen entities, and many have reported seeing faint outlines of shadowy figures that vanish when approached. Adding to the eeriness, some believe that the trail may have been built over ancient Native American burial sites, like this whole country's been done.
Well, and in that point, that is right up there by the great mound builders and all of that. So, I mean, that's probably got more merit possible to truth than many of the other ones we talk about.
Paranormal experts suggest that disturbed burial grounds often leave imprints of energy that manifest as sensations or apparitions, lending credence to the idea that Zombie Road is home to the spirits of those long past. One of the most unsettling features of Zombie Road is the presence of ghostly children, which has become central to the road's haunted reputation.
Absolutely.
Visitors and paranormal investigators alike have reported hearing faint, high-pitched laughter believed to belong to the spirits of children who met tragic fates in the area. According to one tale, these children were victims of accidents along the road, possibly struck by the trains that once ran alongside it. The chilling sound of children's laughter breaks the stillness of the forest and has led many to leave the trail in fear, as no source for these sounds can ever be found. The story of the so-called zombie killer dates back to the 1950s, when Zombie Road was a popular spot for teens looking for privacy. Legend holds that an escaped mental patient stalked the area and preyed upon unsuspecting couples who parked their cars along the secluded road. This figure, sometimes referred to as a giant serial killer zombie, is said to have taken up residence in a shack hidden deep within the woods, only venturing out under the cover of darkness. As time passed, stories about the zombie killer evolved into ghostly sightings. Numerous visitors report seeing a tall, cloaked figure at the edge of the woods, watching silently before melting into the shadows. Paranormal researchers believe that fear surrounding this tale continues to fuel sightings, as the mysterious figure aligns perfectly with the legend. Children of the Grave, a documentary released in 2007, which I believe Eric and I have both seen and really enjoyed.
Highly recommend.
But this documentary explored Zombie Road's haunted history through witness accounts and eerie visual evidence. Investigators filmed shadows that appeared to move independently of any light source. Locals and visitors have consistently reported sharp drops in temperature and a profound sense of dread, especially near the trail's entrance. Now, as one of Missouri's most infamous haunted locations, Zombie Road attracts thrill seekers, particularly during Halloween. However, local authorities strictly enforce trespassing laws, patrolling the trail after dark to prevent visitors from wandering into the woods. Fines for trespassing can reach $1,000. Law enforcement's heavy presence has even led to rumors, though, that their patrols are a measure to keep people safe not only from legal repercussions, but perhaps from the supernatural as well. Each Halloween season, the haunted stories of Zombie Road resurface, drawing new visitors eager to experience Missouri's paranormal hotspot. Now, I do remember watching Children of the Grave, and two of the ones that I remember most vividly, and I was talking to my daughter about these, one is the picture on the ridge line where there's a spirit between each tree.
And it's almost like they're holding hands,
Yeah.
I think. You see kind of like silhouettes.
And the other is as they're approaching the bridge, there's a shadow in the middle of the bridge that does not change no matter how close they get to it with their lights. To the point where I don't think they even start across the bridge. They stop because they're like, look at that. That's not moving. That's not changing it. And there's nothing that should be stopping the light.
Well, Bill, you led into my question. That's why I've been sitting over here with my mouth shut. My question to Bill is actually, spoiler alert, mine's about Zombie Road. Because I knew Bill would cover it, and I'm so proud that he did. But of all the haunted highway locations that we've mentioned this evening, my question to you is, or maybe it's one we didn't cover this evening, which one would you choose an all-expense paid weekend trip to, full access?
Now, when we first posited this idea, Zombie Road was high on my list. But after reading about Demons Road,
That one's got you
that
one
one
up.
has me curious. Like all expenses paid trip, then yeah, like probably Demons Road, just because. But if it was just like, hey, we're gonna go check out a spot, I mean, we could drive to Zombie Road. So
Right.
I mean, we could drive to Texas too, but it's a much longer trip.
Well, for me, the answer to my question is, again, ever since I saw the Booth Brothers Spooked TV movie, They actually did Children of the Grave that Bill mentioned, and they actually also did another follow-up called Zombie Road movie. Obviously, it's not that far of a trip, but the only thing that's held me back was I want to get in there after dark.
Well, yeah, you don't want to get that
I
fine.
don't want to take the trip for just a daylight walking path. I'm sorry. I'm not as much into fitness as Bill is right now, wanting to go walk. But that would be, if I had all expense paid, that's fine. But all access,
You joke
I want to go in.
You joke about the fitness thing. My wife is actually planning a trip for the holiday weekend just to go hiking.
To Zombie Road?
No. I'm actually after my daughter turns 18, I think I'm going to do the ghost tour at the penitentiary.
I think that would be a good one.
She's definitely into this. As a matter of fact, when the future of this endeavor was kind of up in the air and we didn't know if we were going to continue or not, she was routinely asking if me and her could pick it up.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, I don't know what's going on with Eric. Let's wait and see.
I know she mentioned possibly being like a co-host, a guest host on a few things.
She routinely brings me stories of things she saw. She's like you. She does the YouTube thing, but she just watches these video after video after video. And again, that's why we talk about these things when we go on our walks. And so I think we're going to do that one, like I said, after she turns 18.
I know we went to the Pythian Castle in Springfield on a ghost hunt tour, and I really enjoyed it. But the problem I had with it was they were cramming like, I want to say 50-some people on 3 floors of a wooden building.
Yeah.
So you had commotion coming from upstairs, you had commotion coming from downstairs. So even, and I caught some great photography proof, I felt. But anything audible, you just pretty well had to just chuck out, But, so what's your question?
Have you ever found yourself late at night on a stretch of road and maybe you saw something, maybe you didn't, but you absolutely felt like you didn't belong?
Yes. Since we travel back and forth a lot to the East Coast, my wife and I are those crazy people. We drive straight through. There's 2 of us adult drivers. We just tag team, and usually we've got at least one of the pups, if not both the pups, with us, and it's just too costly to pay extra fees. So we just drive through. And honestly, I love to drive the open roads at night. I love to have the window cracked, some tunes playing, just the cool breeze kind of coming in. And we were, I guess it's been now probably about 3-4 years ago. I was driving back kind of what you would consider the Outer Banks region. And to the direct left was the ocean. But to the direct left, if you will, was marshlands and swamp that overflowed.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot of trees. There was, some underbrush and real swampy looking area. So you had a pretty good view, a few trees and stuff. And then the water for the oceans was on the other side. One night I was driving and there was, I'll call it an old barn, maybe kind of dilapidated, but it still had power. Still had one of those big old bright, fluorescent lights. And out of the corner of my eye, I caught something I thought coming out of the barn. It was, kind of a dark, shadowy figure. And I thought, well, that was right under the light. Why did that show up as a shadow? Because it was dusk. It wasn't dark. So I turned around and I went back. And Sarah, I think at that point when I kind of turned around and she woke up and we kind of come back to that area and there was just cattails and reeds and all this. All of a sudden, something came up out of the ditch and we both screamed. I'll be straight up honest. It was dark, blackish brown in color, and something bigger than a dog, but not as big as a human. It was a bear.
Wow.
And it was literally, I could have, if I'd been stupid enough, I could have rolled my window all the way down and probably reached out the car door and pet it.
Wow.
It came up that close to the car. I think we scared it as much as it, spooked us. But then we got to talking. It's like the bear's obviously sopping wet. It's come through that area, but did it have enough time from point A to point B?
Yeah.
So we get to looking. there's more than one bear.
Oh, man.
There was like a little family of bears out there kind of playing around in the marshland. We got to see 2 little cubs kind of come along. So for that moment before we were invaded by Smokey the Bear, there was some, it's like, what in the world are we seeing? It was creepy. It was still scary because it's like, obviously let's roll the windows up and let's keep on trucking. But I think in total we saw I assume the mama bear and 2 bear cubs. So it was kind of a cool story, but boy, it definitely didn't start off as a fun-filled event. How about you?
In my late teens and early 20s, my friends and I used to routinely go late night driving on back roads. And there's a lot of places in Missouri that get a sinister feel when you turn the lights off.
Mm-hmm.
But we would try to find places that creeped us out, of course, or things like that. And I don't know too often that we found like a lot of places that were just genuinely frightening or anything, but there were definitely lots of places where we would see weird things and we would think we saw weird things. You know how it is. Your imagination starts to run wild. But I do remember one time there's this gravel road and it's between Dixon and Jerome. And my friend took me to this graveyard that was off this gravel road. And he said, every time I come here, he said, the flag is always fluttering. It doesn't matter whether the wind is blowing or not. And there was an American flag on a pole in the middle of it. And he said, I've gone in this graveyard during the day and most of the graves in here are children, which was kind of weird.
Yeah.
He said he'd been there multiple times with other people and had a girlfriend that had like a really spooky experience. But he said, I cannot stay here. And he was a person who was into the paranormal. He said, and it was like one of those, like I'll get out of the car. He says, and I get maybe I can get to 5, maybe 10 minutes, but I cannot stay any longer than that. And maybe it was because of that, but we got out and kind of leaned against the front of the car and talked about it and watched and listened. And I had been back a few times, but he's not wrong. Like,
you're not alone.
Don't want to stay there.
Now, what kind of time frame are most of the graves? Like early 1900s?
I never went to look at any of them, so okay. I don't know. Because it was at night. I didn't want to trespass, The only other time I can say that I was on a road where I felt truly uncomfortable in the moment, and I think I've told this story before, but we were going to some state park thing where a friend was having like a birthday picnic. We were going to
get together.
And we were going down this gravel road and we get to a place and it's just a fence on one side, just fence line. You know how it is. Wooden posts. And somewhere in the middle of this fence line, we get to a point where every fence post has a hogshead caped out. You know what I mean when I say caped out? The shoulder,
Yeah.
Every one of them. And I've got the windows down. I'm driving.
And this is at like a state park?
Well, this is on the way too.
Oh,
this
on the
is
way
between
to
here and there.
Okay.
And I'm looking over and I get like truly like Texas Chainsaw kind of
Massacre
vibe.
Stuff, yeah.
And I'm looking out the window and I'm like, that is really creepy. Well,
come here, little piggy.
We get to where the fence line ends and there's this little like rundown farmhouse and there's what I remember there being 2 old boys sitting on a porch, neither one looking super friendly. And I don't know what they yelled, but they yelled at us as we drove by. Now, they were probably yelling at us to slow down because I have a tendency to have a little bit of a lead foot.
Well, after you saw that as well.
But all I remember was just driving by and then seeing these hogsheads. Now, in hindsight, wild pigs are a nuisance animal. And if these guys had a farm, maybe they were causing them problems, so they were killing them and leaving the heads out as a warning. I don't know.
Frighten the other pigs or hogs. Yeah.
But that was that one, like, that was broad daylight too. Like I said, that was during the day. And I was just like, no, I don't, this is creeping me out. That was genuinely creepy in a way.
Yeah, I would
in
think
a different kind of way, not a haunted, spooky.
Disturbing.
But I've definitely been down plenty of Missouri back roads where maybe you saw something out of the corner of your eye or you drove past a house and maybe there was a figure in the front yard. And why would there be at this time of night?
Yeah.
Or, your friend would look behind and go, I think I just saw something go across the road behind us.
And some people will argue when we as humans allow ourselves to relax to a point where we're almost in tune more, if you will, to see such things. So depending on what side of the fence you want to argue it, it could be, well, you dummy, you've been driving for 12 hours straight. You need to pull over. You're sleep deprived, so you're seeing this. There could also be the point of, you're allowing yourself to stop and smell the roses or stop to observe something that you might normally look over. So.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've seen my fair share of weirdness. I mean, it might be perfectly explainable, but in the moment, you don't always latch on to, hey, this is what I saw. You remember what you think you saw.
Well, we hope that you've enjoyed yet another episode, this time of Haunted Highways right here on Nightmares on the Lost Highway. Be careful driving out there, especially for in the dark and the things that go bump in the dark.
Hey, real quick, call to action. I think Eric would agree. We'd like to grow this Nightmares on the Lost Highway.
Absolutely.
If you could, if you're listening on Apple, if you would go and give us a review and rate us. If you have some feedback, that's fine too. Whatever platform you're listening, follow us, rate us, give us some reviews. That helps get some recognition and gets our name out there.
We do have a Facebook page, Nightmares on the Lost Highway. You can easily find us if you want to communicate with us. If you want to share some possibilities for future podcasts with us, reach out. We want to talk with you guys.
I want to take a time to thank the people that helped bring this all together. Alex Tudor, you can almost call him our producer at this point. Sarah Tudor, who also helps with some of the technical stuff. I want to take a moment to extend thanks to Eric for letting us use his space to record in, kind of our makeshift studio.
I, in turn, would like to thank Bill for, one, putting up with me and using this camaraderie to do something we both very much love and enjoy doing, and thank Bill's family for allowing him to spend all the time to work and clean up our recordings and present them in what you hear in the final terms, the final edition, if you will.
And I'd like to thank all of you for continuing to listen. I know we've got some loyal followers out there. We do this as a labor of love, but we're happy that there are people that enjoy it hopefully as much as we do.
Thank you very much.